Winnipeg Sports Talk Daily with Andrew Hustler Paterson and Michael Remis.
Hey, what's going on, everyone? And welcome to Winnipeg Sports Talk Daily. Andrew Paterson with you, along with Michael Remis. Got a very busy show today. We will get ready for the Cup Final. Dave McCarthy joining us first up, as well as some of the offseason topics in and around the National Hockey League. And then our pal Ken Wiebe from the Winnipeg Free Press, who had a nice piece yesterday on the future of Jonathan Toews, which we'll touch on, as well as the news of the day that the man they call the Cardio King, Rasmus Kupari, has signed in Europe for the next couple seasons and will not be returning to the Winnipeg Jets. So lots of hockey talk today. Now, normally at this time in week one, we'd probably be doing a lot in the CFL today. I know Michael and Connor, for the rest of the week when I'm away, are going to be doing plenty on the kickoff of CFL season. But the reason why we're going a little hockey heavy during the big show today is because right after WST, Jeff Hamilton and I will slide in for week one of CFL 110. Episode 2, we did do a future show. Check that out. It's on the channel if you missed it last week. But this is going to be a fun one. Well, listen, we'll start off with the big news around the league of some of the notable cuts that happened on Cutdown Day on the weekend. Take a look at all the week one matchups. And then we'll dive into our future special with Coolbet, where we'll be looking at MOP odds, Grey Cup odds, some win totals, some yardage totals for players. It's going to be a lot of fun. So make sure to stick around after WST is finished for episode 2, week 1 of CFL 110, even if we have to wait another week for the Winnipeg Blue Bombers. Of course, we have to wait one more day for the Stanley Cup Final to begin. Media Day today in Edmonton. We'll dive into all of that coming up with Dave McCarthy. Did want to start the show, though, by just expressing our condolences and thoughts to Milt Steagall and his family. I'm sure most of you know already. It was announced, at least here in Winnipeg through the Bombers, that Milt and his family lost their son Chase yesterday. A star soccer player at DePaul University, a young man that, as Bomber fans, we really saw grew up right in front of our eyes. He was just a little tyke. He was running around the field on the sidelines, with Milt, who's an incredibly proud father. And it stood out to me. I mean, just in digesting the horrible news yesterday, thinking back to the amount of times that Milt was kind enough and gracious enough to give us his time on Winnipeg Sports Talk, and we'd be talking football, but I'd always ask him how things were he was a football player, but he was a soccer dad, and loved following his son in his exploits on the pitch that took him to an NCAA program. And I mean, I think that everyone here in Winnipeg that has been touched by Milt Steagall over the years just is a broken heart for the Steagall family. So, we're going to be doing what we normally do, talking hockey and football and all the fun stuff. But did want to just lead today's show with our condolences and thoughts for the Steagall family and everyone that is mourning the loss of a young man way too soon. Just hard to wrap your head around, to be honest with you. But I think everyone knows that Milt Steagall in so many ways is one of our own, and the entire city and certainly the Bomber Nation feeling for Milt and his family right now. So with that, we'll move on into the program. Welcome everybody in chat, and welcome in Michael Remis. I just figured I'd mention that right off the top because I think it's on everyone's minds today, just that horrible news we got last night.
Yeah, I was really shocked and saddened to see that yesterday, and that's what I thought of when he'd come on the show. You would ask him every time, how are the kids? As you mentioned, you saw them on the field growing up, and while he is a football guy, he was a very proud soccer dad, and he was very proud that Chase found his own path in soccer to DePaul and the NCAA. So it was so sad and very shocking to hear that news yesterday. it's been nice to see some of the outpouring of support from everyone in Winnipeg around the Canadian Football League, but just horrible news yesterday to see that.
Yeah, no doubt. And obviously, you as a young father, I think everyone that, has kids or, is part of a family, you can't really even conceive the heartbreak that they're going through right now. But, we'll look forward to, after probably a lengthy healing process, hopefully speaking with Milt at some point here and, have him back as part of CFL broadcasts on TSN. But all of that pales into comparison to what they are dealing with right now. As I said, welcome to everybody in chat. I know there's, a lot of people mentioning that prayers up for Milt and thoughts on that. Some love for Hammer. Yes, Jeff Hamilton will be joining us. The award-winning Jeff Hamilton will be on the program today on CFL 110 as soon as we are finished, and we'll dive into everything happening in and around the league in week number 1. But today, Remo, we will get into the Cup Final, but some Jets news right off the bat, as I mentioned in the open. Rasmus Kupari, the speedster, signing, what was it, HC Lugano in Switzerland? Great place to play. I mean, one of the top spots in Europe for players that are not in the National Hockey League. But, a little disappointing. I thought that he had a pretty strong season. He got that concussion late in the year and just never found his way back into the lineup. And, a really fun guy to watch, seemingly a popular teammate, a popular player. Just one of those first-round picks that never quite ascended to what I think some people thought that he would have been capable of. But, man, did he have wheels. And those will be running in the Swiss League next year.
Yeah, but it's surprised to see that. Has you wondered how he would shake out, what his opportunity would be, especially with Adam Lowry missing the first bit. And, yeah, he got into the lineup and did miss the last bit due to the concussion. You mentioned speed. He had, the top recorded max speed in the league, like top 5 among forwards the last 2 years, and maybe not able to put it all together to get a regular spot in the lineup. They did put out a press release, HC Lugano, and had a quote from Rasmus Kupari. I will try to take the next step in my career, and I think Lugano is the best place to do it. I will try to be a leader on and off the ice. I'm going to bring my 60-meter game for the offensive and defensive game. My biggest strength as a player is definitely my skating. I love the 60-meter line.
I was just about to say, you can tell you're speaking to European fans and fan base when you're he's a 60-meter player. Can we go with that now? No more 200-foot player. Let's connect with the world.
Yes. And hey, he's 25 years old, turning 26 in March, a former first-round pick with the Kings, 20th overall in 2018. He, is an RFA, and the Jets will qualify him to retain his rights, but 2-year contract in Switzerland. And when you're putting together the Jets roster, well, he's not for next season. He's not going to be a part of it. So will they have to bring in another center? Does this solidify Morgan Barron in there? And with Adam Lowry out, it does open up another roster spot, and seemingly that, I don't know if the second line center, can we declare it open, or is that Nemesnikov's right now? I mean, he had that spot all last season, but we do, reports are that
it's definitely open right now until they start the season and Vlad rolls out there, behind Mark Scheifele in the number 2 spot, if that does happen. I don't think that is the plan right now. Certainly we talked about this, yesterday on the show. I mean, later on when Ken jumps on with us, I think clearly I have to say, first things first, it's clarity on Nikolai Ehlers. But outside of Nikolai Ehlers, can the Jets make a significant upgrade at the 2C position? I mean, I don't know if there's anything outside of a stud top pairing defenseman that could come in and be an impact player, potentially playing alongside Josh Morrissey, that would help the Jets. Now, listen, they won the President's Trophy last year. I mean, they obviously had a great regular season. We're, in a lot of ways, talking about this time right now. What can make you a team that can survive the Dallases, the Edmontons, the Vegases in the West, and take that next step that the Jets are looking to make? But, yeah, to me, that center position is it. Now, listen, Rasmus Kupari was not going to be in the mix for the 2C position. Some would say he might have been an odd man out for the 4C position. I think that's probably why he decided to make the decision that he did. He was a bit of a confounding player because, in a game that is so much about speed, he was as fast as anybody, Reem, as you quoted, the numbers like in game on the ice in the NHL, as fast as anybody. Problem for Kupari is that it just never all came together as the total package. He just did not have great hands. I don't know how else to put it. I don't know. There wasn't a great amount of playmaking ability, and just the everything else in the package wasn't quite up to what the wheels were, which is unfortunate. He had that great start to the season, scored in the opening game this year. I actually won a bet with Balls. I had bet that Kupari would finish with under 10 goals in the season, and I think he got to 5, if I'm not mistaken, and then got hurt at the end. But overall, was a fun guy to have on the team, was a part of that trade that brought Gabriel Vilardi and Alex Iafallo, and those will be the legacy pieces. But certainly was a fine depth player, but I think those are the sort of players that are readily available through free agency, other opportunities within the organization for younger players to come in and take that spot. So I can't really say that I'm surprised that this was the way it ended for Rasmus Kupari, but I'll certainly remember him fondly and hope that he has a great couple seasons in the Swiss League, and it'll be interesting to see if he ever does come back to the NHL.
Yeah, I'm looking at max speed for all skaters this year. Miles Wood, number 1. Quinn Hughes, number 2. Marty Necas, number 3. And Kupari, number 4 among NHL skaters.
Miles Wood, eh?
He's fast. I like Miles Wood.
I would not have guessed that. I would not have guessed that.
And there's some other names on here. Jarvis, Janmark, Stamkos, Slavin, Pospisil, and Trocheck. This is max speed reached in a game in 2025, but he's been up there the last couple of years. It would be like on a back check, or something like that. But as you mentioned, couldn't really put it all together. And Rasmus Kupari, he'll be that answer to the trivia question. Okay, can you name all the components of the Dubois trade? And I think, the major components here, Gabriel Vilardi, who he's an RFA as well. Curious to see what his contract is. And Alex Iafallo, who played a big role here, the utility player playing on every line, and he just signed a deal. So I think this trade actually ended up working out for everyone involved, with LA dealing him for Darcy Kemper, who had a huge year for them, and Washington getting a second line. So it seems like everyone's worked out from this Dubois trade tree. But the Jets, Rasmus Kupari, you take a shot on a young player. It didn't work out, and they seem to have other options there on the fourth line.
Yeah, the trade, we'll talk about that one forever because, of course, it goes back to really the selection of Patrick Laine. When Laine doing what he did here in Winnipeg, and then he, of course, getting traded for Dubois. I would maybe argue about how it worked out for LA because, just cutting your losses after giving up what they did after one season for Dubois was a shocking end to such a big swing by Rob Blake, but might be part of the reason why Rob Blake doesn't have a job right now. And listen, it couldn't have gone any better this year for LA considering the circumstances. But let's remember the trade and when it was made, Remis. They were basically taking a very diminished asset with a big contract and a big number for multiple years on. And the way I read it was, well, okay, we'll take this guy, but you have to take this guy in Darcy Kemper because we've got other goaltenders, and he wasn't particularly good and certainly wasn't up to the contract he was making. So they made, I guess, the best of a bad situation, and then Kemper completely exceeded everyone's expectations last year and helped the Kings have a great, great season. And obviously Washington was quite happy with Dubois, except maybe it was a bit of a disappearing act in the playoffs at the end. But I think overall Dubois was better than they could have maybe hoped, certainly the way he looked in LA the year before. But the Jets certainly aren't changing anything with what Vilardi, Iafallo, and for the 2 seasons when he was in the lineup, what Kupari brought to the Jets.
No, definitely a successful trade, and you have to wonder if Kevin Cheveldayoff has a second act here. Well, not second, but another big move this offseason to get the Jets over the top. They got past that first round hurdle. This year got to the second round, and I think anyone who watched that series knew they were right there with Dallas. Game 1 slipped through their fingers. I think Game 4, goalied by Jay Gottinger, and Game 6, in the face of adversity, got to overtime and weren't able to kill the penalty, which led to the series ending. I think they are in a good spot, but losing Nikolai Ehlers would be absolutely huge. And how will they replace his scoring if he does leave in free agency? It won't be Rasmus Kupari, but I'm curious what Kevin Cheveldayoff has up his sleeve this offseason.
Yeah, I mean, here's another question. And Nick Kyprios's trade board is out over at Sportsnet. And we were talking about this off air today. Elias Pettersson's there, and he's out there. I mean, obviously that would be a real nice piece to plug in at 2C. Well, he's making $11.6 million. Are you able to get that? But even if the numbers work, when I look at the Jets, especially when we're projecting what the Jets might be able to acquire in trade, it's a little hard to imagine who from the present roster they'd be willing to move in a deal. I mean, Scheifele, Connor, that's a no. I mean, Nito Niederreiter, I guess, has 2 years left on a deal. Nito Niederreiter's not getting you Elias Pettersson. Iafallo is obviously signed. Lowry's hurt. Cole Perfetti is, I would think he's close to untouchable right now. I mean, they're certainly looking at improving the top six, but having Cole as a part of it, especially if Nikolai Ehlers is gone. And then, Gabriel Velarde being an RFA would have value, but again, I'm not sure that they're looking at trading him. And then the blue line's pretty clear. You've got significant commitments to Neil Pionk, Josh Morrissey, Dylan DeMello as well. I'm not sure what the market value of Dylan is, but again, if we're talking about elite top six players, it's probably not going to get you done, which then goes back to the question I asked Murat last week, Remo, and I know you put a clip out of it. How likely is it that the Jets make their first round pick in the draft? And I do think that if there is, a player that has some NHL experience that is under team control, I think the Jets would be more than willing at looking at moving that first round pick for this year's draft and potentially a prospect or two that's coming up in the cupboard. But again, if we're talking about a player like Elias Pettersson, look at the Dylan Cousins, Josh Norris trade. That was a trade of two players relatively at similar points in their careers, switching spots. The Jets don't really have anything established like that. I think that they're willing to move. So it does get a little more interesting when we talk about trade possibilities for the Winnipeg Jets. If we're looking at a number 2 center, it's great to envision where a guy looks in your lineup. You got to figure out how to get him there. And that, to me, is a little more challenging for Chevy.
Yeah, I agree. You look at their roster and you say, okay, for a team that has trouble attracting free agents, are you going to sign a guy like Nemestikov or Iafallo this offseason and just turn around and trade them? They signed Niederreiter last year. I kind of agree. They're not going to just sign those guys to trade them away. We had talked about, not this year, but last year, okay, if they did try to acquire a guy like Casey Middlestad, Cole Perfetti would be the ask, and the steps that he's taken at $3.25 million. I don't think they're looking to trade him. So, and the defense is pretty much set. I do wonder, where does Luke Schenn fit in? Colin Miller and Logan Stanley. You seem to have a number of players for the last couple spots. That's because you have Pionk, Morrissey, DeMello, Sandberg.
Stand for Pettersson. Who says
that's
no?
That's 4. And then I guess 5, 6, one of those two guys, or do they look to bring in someone for an upgrade? So, yeah, if you're looking to make a deal, I think first-round pick in play. Are they looking to trade prospects? Jaeger, what kind of value does Brad Lambert have these days? Didn't put up huge numbers in the AHL. Now, I know the Moose team, not very good, but it's been a couple years since being drafted for him. Barlow, just coming off the playoffs. He's looking to turn pro now. So I agree. I don't think they have a ton of assets. Maybe you're looking to take a contract off someone's hands, someone's hands that is too expensive. And a name Kyprios did mention us, Andrew Kopp, Mason Appleton. Sounds like he's going to be, possibly moving on as a free agent. Haven't heard any chatter there. Would they look to bring Andrew Kopp, bring him home, reunite him with Adam Lowry? They brought Mason Appleton home. Now, I know he's got a huge price tag. I don't think there's really a fit there, but in terms of former Jets out there, that one caught my eye, Huss.
Yeah, well, listen, the one thing about Kopp is that he's got 2 more years at 5.625.
Yeah, not a fit there.
I mean, like, Detroit would have to eat $4 million of that, I think, to actually fit that in. It just hasn't gone well for Andrew Kopp, and he has not been close to the productive player that he was in Winnipeg in Detroit, despite with more opportunity and a bigger role. So that'll be something we'll keep an eye on former Jets and Kopp, of course. But maybe I'll see what Dave thinks about the Detroit Red Wings going into the offseason. We'll, of course, talk Oilers and Panthers, but we get to some of the other big stories around the league as well coming up in just a minute. I do got to shout out Roldy's transfer. Folks, if you got a move coming up this year, holler at our friends at Rolly's, family owned and operated for over 60 years in Winnipeg and the most trusted name in moving in Manitoba. And you might just be lucky enough to get your stuff moved in the Winnipeg Sports Talk truck, which you can see running all over the streets of Winnipeg. If you do have a move, head on over to their website at rollies.com. Click on Request an Estimate. Put in the promo code WST for a special discount on moving services and moving supplies. And then let them know when and where you're planning on moving and what needs to go. And our friends at Rollies will turn it around quickly with a great quote and get you locked in for the white glove service that they are famous for. For your next move, make it Rollies, the most trusted name in Manitoba and moving. Find out more, request an estimate today over at rollies.com. Great seeing Dr. Terry on the weekend out of the soccer game and the Match Play Championship. Of course, St. Patel Dental Center, proud sponsor of Winnipeg Sports Talk, serving generations of Winnipeggers in Manitoba, out in the old St. Vital area, but it's worth the drive wherever you are in the city because they've got a beautiful new facility, state-of-the-art equipment with free parking right behind the building. It couldn't be any more convenient, and a full array of dental services for patients from 6 months to 99 plus, everything from checkups and cleanings all the way to things like dental implants. For more information on all of their services and to make an appointment, hit them up online at stvitaldental.ca. We got a nice weekend, a nice few days coming up. We're going to talk to Andrew Collier later on about the upcoming Goldeyes homestand. Also a great time to maybe try a couple great new summer drinks, including the Canadian Club Pack, which is not just the famous Canadian Club and ginger ale. They've also added a citrus smash, which is amazing, and the half and half, which I think is going to be our go-to on the golf course this year. Arnold Palmer, half iced tea, lemonade, with the great taste of Canada's iconic Canadian whiskey. Canadian Club, pick it up today at your local Manitoba liquor marts when you pop by. And just before we bring in Dave, big weekends coming up. Boating, camping, jet skis. Got to make sure you got batteries for all these things, folks. And this is an important time to remind you all that you can shop local and save a lot of money by driving past the big box stores over to Manitoba Battery. 2 locations in Winnipeg to serve you, Logan Avenue and Dovercourt Drive in the south end of the city. And there you'll find the biggest and best selection of batteries for literally everything at the best prices in town. You'll save up to $50 a battery for your campers and boats by dealing with Manitoba Battery. And hey, if you're busy and you can't make it down, no sweat. Go online to manitobabattery.com or give them a call. They'll deliver you your batteries for free anywhere in the city with any purchase over $60. It is just that easy. For all your battery needs, keep it local. Get the best price in town with Manitoba Battery. 2 locations and manitobabattery.com. All right. We've got lots to get to in the National Hockey League. We're going to be going to consistently year over year one of the greatest backgrounds of any guest that joins us. This segment with Dave is brought to you by Ben Moss. Ben Moss, proudly Canadian-owned and operated with history dating back more than 100 years. 3 locations in Winnipeg, Polo Park Shopping Center, St. Vital Center, and Kildonan Place. Committed to customer satisfaction. Check out a large selection of Canadian mined diamonds, lab-grown diamonds, and mined diamonds available with payment plans to suit your need. For more information, check out benmoss.com. Ben Moss, shine bright. Nobody shines brighter than Dave McCarthy of NHL.com. Let's bring in Dave right now. And Dave, once again, I mean, people think that you live in the forest or something like that. There is no greater background than when you join us in spring and summer on WST.
Well, I don't live in the forest. It's wild, actually, that I live right in the heart of, not the heart of the city, but put it this way, I'm not in Orangeville either, right? Like, I'm 20 minutes from downtown, and we have a nice little enclave here that feels like you're in cottage country.
What part of town is this?
Etobicoke. It's the best part of town.
Ford country.
Oh yeah. Now, I'm gonna have to take issue with my good friend Douglas, though. If he can't get the bourbon situation sorted out between he and Mr. Trump very, very soon, sir, I have to tell you, I'm into deep inventory. Okay,
Dave,
I have only 1 bottle of regular Maker's Mark left and a bottle of Maker's Mark 2.0, which came out, probably 4 years ago. Very, very elite stuff. I found a bottle of 46 and Woodford Reserve in inventory last night that I had forgotten about, and that was very good news. But I am getting to the end of my supply, and I do not like that. So something Douglas is going to have to figure that out.
Well, it's funny you bring that up, just while you mention it. We did an event with our friends at Suntory for the Winnipeg Whiskey Festival.
Right.
We do it each year. We have WST, and this one was the bourbon experience. So we had the Maker's Mark Masterclass, and the guy came in and, taught us all about bourbons. It was really cool. We got to try some of those. You can get your name on a cask.
Yes, I have my name on a cask.
You know what? The minute you said that, I'm like, I bet you're that guy.
I am a Maker's Mark ambassador right now.
Yes.
Okay. So, no, that's interesting. That's how I got into it. I was fortunate enough, actually, I don't know if you know him, our buddy Paul Atfield with the Globe and Mail. You know Paul at all?
I just know the name.
Okay, yeah, he's great guy. Back during the pandemic, he texted me up. He's like, buddy of mine is essentially a promoter, for lack of a better word, with Maker's Mark, Jim Beam. You interested in doing a virtual tasting? I'm like, that'd be amazing. So they mailed over the 6 little vials in like little test tube type things, and it was fantastic. Jumped on the video thing like this with a guy for like 2.5 hours, and ever since then I've been a bourbon guy. So I'm very dismayed that I'm running out of a supply here, but I guess I'm going to have to explore other libations. And I'll put it this way: if anyone out there is looking to get me on their side, my door is always open.
Dave McCarthy with this. Well, while we're speaking about spirits, drinks, parties, good times, who will be having the party at the end of the Stanley Cup Final, which finally gets underway tomorrow? You have a lean right now. This, to me, and I know it's sort of been bet to favor Edmonton, but I think the bookies and the odds makers got it right when this thing dropped pretty much at a pick'em. Lots to love about both teams. 2 incredible runs through the playoffs. A rematch of last year. Not a lot to distinguish each team from each other. And I think you've got a lot of people feeling that this could be another epic 7-gamer.
Yeah, I think pick'em is the right way of going about it. I mean, if it's disparity in one way or the other, I think you're not telling the truth. Now, we sit here, we could be wrong, right? I didn't expect Florida to go up 3-0 on Edmonton last year, but then Oilers fought back and they made it a 7-gamer and they were right there. So sometimes it doesn't necessarily get to the spot that we anticipated in the way we anticipated, but I'm thinking this is a long series. I like the way Connor McDavid spoke in the 3rd round after winning that round against Dallas, as if the moment didn't seem big anymore, and that it was a much more business-like approach. And that it seemed to me, we in Toronto, we hear a lot about learning lessons. Hear that all the time. Very rarely do we see the lessons that we learned actually applied to the next opportunity. We don't see that in Toronto. In Edmonton, it looks like that's exactly what they did. They learned what it was all about last year in the Cup Final, and they've applied that throughout this Stanley Cup playoff run. And it seems like they're not surprised to be there. It seems like they expected to be there. They played with a professionalism, a calmness about their game. They don't seem overwhelmed. And I think they're a better team than they were last year as well. Like, you're getting all-world production from your top guys, and McDavid and Draisaitl, Nugent-Hopkins. It's unfortunate Hyman's not available, but the depth has been fantastic. And Stuart Skinner, since he's come back into the net, has been really, really good. So I think this is going to be a long series. Hard to pick against Florida, though, right now, man, because the way they have played, they look like just an absolute juggernaut. But, they got a lot of mileage on them as well, and at some point they're going to lose. And I think this might be the year. I'm going to pick Edmonton.
Yeah, you know what? I'm sort of with you too. I lean. I mean, there's all the narratives. We know about the rematch of the Stanley Cup Final. It's happened 3 times in the last 40 years or whatever. The first time, it was Gretzky losing to the Islanders. Next year, rematch. He wins his first cup. Then in the early aughts, it was Sidney Crosby losing for the first time to the Red Wings, coming back. Rematch against the Red Wings, getting his first cup. You know where I'm going with Connor McDavid on this one. But to me, Dave, I'll give the Panthers the nod for depth of forwards in the bottom 6, even as well as the Oiler ones have been playing. I mean, that third line that Florida throws out is probably as good as most second lines around the league. But to me, it comes down to one thing. In a series that we think is going to be tight, that could go the distance, that could be determined by a few high leverage moments, to me, it's the team that has the best player on the world that, can make the difference. And I really do feel like McDavid in particular, but I'll include Draisaitl in that conversation. So motivated, experienced now. I mean, they know what it takes. I think those are the guys that are going to be able to put them just a little bit ahead. And that's why I think this could be such a spectacular series.
Yeah, I mean, is there a picture floating around from last year that Connor McDavid never wants to be in again? If you know what I mean. You go back to that Sidney Crosby ad all those years ago. Remember him hunched by the boards? I think they turned it into an ad the next year. He said, "I never want to be in that picture again."
Yeah.
And this is the guy that Connor McDavid models himself after, right? Like, he is at that level where at some point you have to think he is going to be able to push through and get his own Stanley Cup. And I think what we've seen from McDavid starting last year at this time and what he has a chance to do as we head toward February in the Winter Olympic Games is really an unparalleled stretch of winning, right? Winning the Conn Smythe Trophy in a year where his team loses, albeit he drags them back to Game 7. That's happened very infrequently. I forget the number off the top of my head. I think it's 3 or 4, right? Like Jaguar did it, Bernie Parent did it. I don't think there's many more than that. So to put himself in that category is incredible. What he did at the Four Nations, delivering Canada to a gold medal and delivering the golden goal. Now he's back in the Cup Final for a second straight year. I think if Edmonton wins, I don't know about you, I think Connor McDavid is his Conn Smythe to lose. Right? And
listen, what would it take for him not to win the Conn Smythe? And it's funny, just on a quick little betting angle, the Oilers, like at Coolbet, the Oilers are minus 125 to win the Cup. McDavid is even money to win the Conn Smythe. Like, I think if you're like Edmonton to win the Cup, you're almost better off just betting McDavid to win the Conn Smythe.
Yeah, the only way I don't see him winning if Edmonton wins is if he somehow gets hurt early in the series and then they still win and Draisaitl has 14 points in 7 games. Other than that, I think it's McDavid's to lose. So he could win back-to-back Conn Smythes, could win a Stanley Cup, and then barrels through toward February where he can win a gold medal at the Olympics. What an unparalleled stretch of winning those 18 months would be. And I think he recognizes that. I think he understands the opportunity that's before him. And man, when he gets that look in his eyes, I just don't like betting against him, because he's a hard guy to stop, as Rupe Hintz found out the other day on that breakaway.
Remo, I got the why not question of the day for Dave, but I think this one's going to need a poll. This is a great question. I started getting into this with Iwanek yesterday on Lock Shop. Why not question of the day for Not Autocorp over at Waverly and McGillivray? Okay, imagine this scenario. Connor McDavid leads the Oilers to the Stanley Cup, and he wins the Conn Smythe Trophy. And at the same time, Shea Gilgeous-Alexander leads the Oklahoma City Thunder to the NBA title and wins NBA Finals MVP. And we're talking about McDavid, who's, yes, scored the golden goal for Canada, did not win the Hart Trophy this year, probably won't be a finalist, but wins the Stanley Cup and the Conn Smythe, SGA, NBA MVP, championship, and Finals MVP. Who wins the Northern Star Award for the top athlete? Gilgeous-Alexander has won it before. McDavid, shockingly, has never won it.
There you go. I think that's your answer right there, isn't it?
Could you overlook a guy being the league MVP, winning the championship, and the Finals MVP?
Would be difficult.
Incredible. It speaks to Canadian sport.
Yeah.
That we're having this conversation right now.
I think for whatever reason, the panel of that award, which I hope I don't make any enemies here, but I'm going to say it because I am me and I always tell the truth, is a tad sanctimonious at times. I think the inclination, by your giggle, I think you agree with me. The tendency seems to go against hockey players because, it would just be too easy to give it to a hockey player. And I'm not taking anything away from anybody who's won the award. But I think my point is that it would be Connor McDavid's time when you build out his case that I just made in the last question there. You have to factor in the Four Nations and his performance at that. You'd have to factor in the Conn Smythe, and you'd have to factor in delivering Canada's first championship in hockey, first Stanley Cup since 1993, since I was 6 years old. Okay? That is a pretty damn good case to be made for Connor McDavid. And the fact that you say Shea Gilgeous-Alexander has already won, and deservedly so, if I were a voter, I'd look at it and say, well, McDavid's got to win one of these at some point, and I don't think he could put together a better first, 12 months leading into what he could do next year than he's done this year. With the significance of delivering Canada a Stanley Cup, I think you'd have to give it to him. It should be a close vote, taking nothing away from Shea at all. What he's done with OKC has been incredible. But man, McDavid's got to win one, and I don't think he can build a better case than he will have built if he goes on to finish the deal here in a couple weeks.
I have been on the voting board of that and voted on it in previous years. And it's always a really interesting conversation. But I will say that you are right. There's a lot of people that
not everybody.
No. But put it this way: if it's an Olympic year, I mean, it's going to be like a female swimmer or something. Like, I didn't like the Penny Oleksiak. I thought it was great. There's a million, even comparing Olympic sports, like swimming and speed skating, there's so many events. You have the possibility, and there's relays. Like, you can win all these medals. Where other events, you only have a chance. You got one shot to win, and that's it.
Yeah.
And listen, there is sort of an anti-hockey bias, and just that it's a hockey nation, and I think they feel like, well, we need to highlight some of these other athletes, and I do get it.
Yeah.
But at the same time, I think it makes it that much harder to win on the hockey side. However, this year, when we're talking about two athletes in two of the most popular North American sports, no one's ever had to go up someone potentially with the resume of what SGA could have if they win the finals and he's the finals MVP after already becoming only a second Canadian to win the NBA MVP title.
No, you're right, but no one's had to defeat a team in the Florida Panthers who've gone to the Cup Finals now 3 consecutive years to win their first Stanley Cup. It's not like you're playing a pigeon team that tripped their way into the Cup Final. If you defeat the Florida Panthers, you will have earned that Stanley Cup because they're as good a team as I've seen since I've been watching. Like they're that good. They just don't seem to have really any weakness, and they play like mean, nasty pieces of you-know-what as well, and they don't apologize for it. So if you're going to beat them, it's not going to be easy. You will have earned it, and I think that point as well adds to the case that Connor McDavid will have built.
Dave McCarthy's with us from NHL.com. You can also hear him, not with a bourbon, usually with a hot coffee on the Sunday brunch on Sirius XM, NHL Radio. Dave, as far as the teams that are not participating in the Cup Final right now, which is the other 30 teams, we're already looking ahead to free agency, potential trade moves. What was your reaction when you saw Kevin Weeks do the old engagement farming move with the eye emoji and just a picture of Dallas? Is this Jason Robertson being traded, confirmed? But what are we hearing? Is there something intriguing about Dallas other than the way they melted down and Pete DeBoer backed the bus over his goaltender after pulling him in maybe the most embarrassing fashion we'd seen in recent Cup history?
Yeah, I mean, no reaction at all, and that's not a slight on Kevin. I just don't buy into engagement farming, whether it's him or anybody else who does it. Like, I'm sorry, you're not going to get a rise out of me. Tell me what happens when it happens. Otherwise, I'm not interested. So now, in saying that, I think there could be something that happens in Dallas because you look at how it played out when they lost, and I made the case on the brunch on Sunday that it was quite a spectacular way of pulling your goalie. And so if you're Jim Nill, and I thought both men, Jake Ottinger and Pete DeBoer, handled it well in the exit interviews. I thought they did as good a job as they possibly could have to pour cold water on the situation and not re-hype the story. And it seems to have gone away now. But I still think that if you're Jim Nill, you need to sit down with Pete DeBoer and ask him, hey, what exactly happened right there? Because that probably wasn't necessary. Not pulling your goalie. He's entitled to do so if he thinks that's the right call. But the way in which it was done, for a guy in Pete DeBoer's position who's done this a long, long time and surely understands the importance of Jake Ottinger to that franchise, doing it in that way was surprising. And one question like that I didn't hear asked, which I thought needed to be asked and wasn't, was how did that actually go down in the moment? Did you say to Jake when everyone came over for the timeout, take off your gear, Casey's coming in? Did he not hear you? Did he hear you and just thought, well, I'll ignore that? Or did you forget to say until the timeout was over and then realized as he was skating back, oh, no, wait, I meant to pull him, and then had to make, a wacky waving inflatable arm flailing tube man type situation with your arms to get his attention, which got all of our attention. And now we're talking about it. That I needed to know. How did that go down? And that was never asked. But he needs to figure out how that went down. And then once he figures that out, determine if he's got a problem with how that went down, Jim Nill I'm talking about. And then if so, is he going to do anything about it? If not, is Jake Ottinger cool with it? Seemed like he was taking a high road. And I think Jake Ottinger's a pretty big boy and would get past something like that. But you have to ask. So there's a lot of questions that I think need to be managed, if you will, by the manager over the next few weeks here, because it was a really unusual scene, I thought, there in Game 5.
Well, and on top of it all, Dave, like that listen, I thought he backed the bus up over him in the press conference after game 5 as well.
He went full George Costanza.
Yeah.
It was like he was trying to get fired. This guy, you can't beat Edmonton. Oh, is this best Stars team you've ever coached? Generally, the question is, his response is, I don't know about that. I was really surprised how that went down. Now, emotions are high at that point. And like I said, in the exit interviews, it seemed like everybody had cooler heads, handled much better. But you're right. After the game as well, it's like, I can't believe what he's saying right now.
It was wild. But Jim Nill's got a lot of work to do. I mean, here's the list of UFAs on the Dallas Stars. Jamie Benn, Matt Duchene, Evgeny Dadonov, Mikhail Granlund, Colin Blackwell, Maverick Bourque is an RFA, and then Brendan Smith and Cody Ceci are off the books. I don't know whether those guys will be back. They've got $4.95 million in cap space. So, I mean, one of those players would probably eat that up. So there is the possibility that maybe they do make a significant move. And I mean, Tyler Seguin, I doubt is moving anywhere. I'm not sure if he's got a no move in his contract, but he's making almost $10 million for the next 2 years. Wyatt Johnson signed long-term. Jason Robertson is the one player that has been thought maybe he'd move. Now, he's 25 years old, making $7.75. He is an RFA at the end of next season. So I think there would be, definitely a market for him. But I don't know whether that makes them better, moving off a player like Robertson. So, the Dallas Stars in particular are a very interesting player when it comes to just how they get under the cap and who they can bring back, never mind adding or trying to make themselves better into the offseason. But Dave, let's face it, we look at every free agent board and the number one guy up there on the top is Mitch Marner. Have things cooled down since the Leafs' embarrassment in Game 7 in that I'm starting to hear more and more people suggest maybe they do bring the guys back because, how can you argue that they'll be a better team next year by losing a Marner or a Tavares essentially for nothing? First question is, what are the chances in your mind right now that Mitch Marner is a Maple Leaf next October?
Below 50, to be honest with you. At some point, you've got to put your stake in the ground and say enough is enough. And you just can't keep passing out whatever money these guys demand when it comes time for a new contract, because the results have not been there. It's a results business. And when we see around the league, other teams don't have the results that they want, there's change. And nobody thinks twice about it. So, look, here's the thing. And they're not giving them up for nothing. They're getting $11 million in cap space left. There's value in that. I know you know that, but there's value in that. Because the Leafs haven't had the ability to take the shackles off to remake their roster in quite some time. If Mitch Marner would like to come back at 8 years and $9 million, I would run to Grandin Toy to buy Brad Treliving and Mitch Marner each a pen so that they could sign that deal immediately. He's not going to want to do it though, and that Marner, that is, and then that's where you run into a problem, because if he demands 13 plus, and you add that into what you already have, you're not winning with Mitch Marner making that kind of money. And why would you? Why would you expect to win in that circumstance? Has anything that Mitch Marner has done in the playoffs throughout his career suggested that he should be paid at that level? Sorry, the answer is no. And that's not to say that he's not a really good player, but he cannot be the man on a championship winning team. I don't believe it. I've never seen anything to suggest that he can. If he goes elsewhere at a more palatable number and wins the Stanley Cup, would I be surprised? No. But on that team, I would expect him to be, guy 4 or 5 down the list and that they've got a core in place of guys who are better than him and who personify the heartbeat and the skeleton of that particular team. And then Mitch comes in like Phil Kessel did in Pittsburgh and plays a really effective role, and then they go on to have success. But how do you do that when he wants that kind of money? You can't bring a guy in to play a supporting role when he wants to be paid like the man. And if he's being paid like the man, I don't think you can win. I just don't, because I haven't seen it yet in his career in Toronto. And I'm not trying to sound harsh. I love Mitch, what he brings. He's been a big part of this Leafs team over the last 9 years that's turned them from a laughingstock into a team that shows up in September and knows they're in the playoffs. And there's value in that. But the reason they can't push through is that, one, the core in its entirety has been unable to deliver. And part of that issue, I think, is that they take up so much of the money, they haven't been able to build out, like Florida, a third line of Lundell Luosterainen and Brad Marchand, which if Barkov isn't going or Tkachuk isn't going or Verhaeghe or Reinhart or Bennett, they're delivering. And the Leafs haven't been able to rely on that enough because their hands have been tied. So it's a long-winded answer, but I think at some point, if you're Brad Treliving, you have to make a difficult decision and say, we'd love him back, but I can't pay him that kind of money because we just put ourselves right back in the same position that we have been for years.
Yeah, and I mean, I think it would have been different if they had big performances with everything on the line. But you look at the Game 7 record and the way things ended up, and the way that Game 7 went with the acoustics in the building in the third period, it was hard to imagine that that wasn't it. Well, let me ask you this. I'm just looking at Coolbet. Here are the lines. Next team for Mitch Marner. The Kings are the favorite at plus 450. You've got Leafs and Vegas at 6-1. Carolina 650. Utah plus 750. And then 10-1 for the Blackhawks, Sharks, Ducks, Blue Jackets. Probably all those 10-1 teams might be able to pay a little bit more. Mm-hmm. But is there an appetite to go to a team that is that far out of the playoffs right now? If it's not the Leafs, who's next for 16?
Well, I'll tell you what would happen to the city in terms of the amount of flames you might see from your neck of the woods if he decides to go to Carolina.
No doubt.
After he said no thanks to a trade that would have sent Mikko Rantanen back the other way. That would agitate people, to say the least. So I would be surprised if it's Carolina. If it wasn't then, why would it be now? Yeah, the Kings would be interesting. I think the Kings need another game-breaking type of player. Los Angeles is a market that does add you a little extra outside the rink, not to the same extent that Toronto does for hockey, but if you're interested in other opportunities, worse places to be than LA. And so I could see LA as a possibility. Utah, that's what I mean. You want to bring in Mitch Marner if you're Utah and you're paying him like the man, okay, he might help you get in the playoffs. That's as far as you're going. You're not winning anything. You're just not. So it depends what do you value if you're Utah? Is the Leafs' last 9 years, to which quite honestly, a lot of teams would envy. Buffalo would envy it. Detroit would envy it. Utah would envy that, right? Where you're in the playoffs year after year after year after year. If that's what they think they value, then all the power to them. He will help you if that's what you want, but you will not win. You can't when you're paying him that much money. I haven't seen it yet. If we had seen it in the playoffs, if him and Matthews had gone, head over heels every year and been McDavid or Draisaitl like, or even slightly below that level, but the Leafs can't get a save, or defensively they're not very good, or whatever it might be, my tune would be different. But it's the same guys year over year who, when all of the marbles are pushed to the middle of the table, come up empty-handed. So that's why I don't believe it. Vegas, I mean, I don't know how you fit him in if you're Vegas unless you're throwing bodies overboard. But to me, Mitch Marner doesn't really seem like a Golden Knight to me. The way they like to play, they play a heavy style. They're kind of like Florida in a way, the way they play. So I don't really see it. Vegas, I guess if I had to bet, there's a team you didn't mention. What about Pittsburgh?
14-1 right there with Philly.
Okay, there you go.
Give us the thoughts at Pittsburgh. Obviously there's a relationship with Dubois.
Yeah, that's number one. Number two is he wants to contend while Sidney Crosby is still Sidney Crosby. And shockingly, not shockingly, it's Sid, but Father Time is undefeated last I checked. And the guy's 38. He's still playing like he's 28. Dubois wants to compete. Mitch Marner will help you do that. Could he slide in and play the role of Phil Kessel to an extent, right? Maybe, but Malkin's not as good as he was when Phil was Phil in Pittsburgh. And Letang isn't Letang anymore. And so, I don't know if they'll contend, but he would certainly help them get to the playoffs. So that's why I look and think maybe there's a relationship there. He's a guy that can come in, help them right away. He'll be there for another, if he signs a 7-year deal, probably 5 years after Sid and Malkin are done. And then Dubois will be betting that the cap continues to go up, and therefore the percentage of the hit will diminish, like the bet he made when he signed him the first time and then got screwed because of the pandemic. Not necessarily his fault, but it turned out to be a bad bet. Again, not his fault, but it was a bad bet. Maybe that's how it looks at it. But I could see some interest in Pittsburgh. And then the other point I'll make, Hustler, is that it's not too far from Toronto, but it's not Toronto either.
Buffalo?
Yeah, I think that's too close.
Oh, you mean Pittsburgh is? Yeah.
Pittsburgh. Right, it's only 4 hours down the road a little bit, so.
Hey, Dave, listen, always love your work on the brunch. Will you be continuing those responsibilities right throughout the summer? And what do you have cooking during the finals on Sunday mornings on Sirius XM NHL Radio?
Yeah, we'll be going till the first Sunday after free agency. So I guess the 6th of July will be the last brunch. And then you'll hear me for weekday lunch, if you will, throughout the summer on a number of occasions. What do we got cooking on the finals? We'll find something good. It's Tuesday yet here. Still got the pot just approaching the element here. We're not don't fully have the gas cooking yet, but yeah, interesting people usually pop up on the brunch.
All things Stanley Cup Final and so much more. Sirius XM NHL Radio at 10 to noon Winnipeg time, 11 to 1 Eastern. I'm actually out in your neck of the woods this weekend. I'll holler at you, see what's going on. Lots going on. Well, Jays on Thursday, Canadian Open on Friday. I've just found out that our national men's soccer team is playing Ukraine on Saturday afternoon.
That's right. You're right.
So I've got something at 1 that day, but I'm hoping to be able to do both. So anyways, I'll be in touch, see where you're at. Maybe we can get together for, not a bourbon, I guess, but something else.
Right
you probably know all the places where you can dive into that might still be able to serve you one.
I might have a few places, but they're running low, I'm sure, as well.
Thanks for doing this, buddy. Have a great one. Enjoy Game 1 tomorrow.
See you, buddy.
Good stuff. There's Dave McCarthy. You can follow him on X at Dave A. McCarthy and check out all his work over at NHL.com. All right. We are counting down. What do we got? 9 days before we're back at Princess Auto Stadium for the Winnipeg Blue Bomber home opener. Get your tickets now if you don't already have them. We'll be looking for another great crowd to kick off the Bombers' quest for 6 straight trips to the Grey Cup. And, of course, that Grey Cup is at Princess Auto Stadium as well this year. Princess Auto, proud sponsors of the Winnipeg Blue Bombers, Winnipeg Sports Talk, and so much else in our sporting community and city. Of course, Princess Auto has 3 locations in Winnipeg and Manitoba, Panet Road, Portage Avenue West, and Brandon, where you'll find the best deals on the most unique assortment of tools and equipment around. Everything you need to complete the projects on your list or start something new is at Princess Auto. You can always find out more online and shop 24/7, 365 at princessauto.com as well. Now, I'm getting ready to get out to Aikens in a month or so. And listen, I've already seen people out on the river fishing this year. Fishing season is finally here. We got some gorgeous weather. But if you're thinking about maybe taking that fishing experience to the next level, get over to aikenslake.com and find out more about availability and options for the 2025 fishing season at Aikens Lake Wilderness Lodge. World-class fishing and even more world-class hospitality from the Aikens team and the Turin family. And you can be on the water in less than 2 hours from the city of Winnipeg, including a short flight. Again, aikenslake.com for more information on the 2025 season. And I encourage you to check out all their social media feeds at Aikens Lake for more on what the Aikens experience is all about. Of course, we are getting into that time, folks, where it's wedding season, a lot of busy weekends coming up for many of you. If this coincides with you needing to up your menswear game, head on over to our friends at F Apparel at 190 Smith Street. Just celebrated 15 years in business here in the Peg, featuring the best in men's clothing with custom suits starting at just over $400. Chinos, golf pants, custom shirts, both tucked and untucked styles, and an incredible selection of menswear accessories. And of course, speaking of weddings, if you are just getting engaged or planning a wedding, make sure to talk to the guys at F about a special discount for the wedding party when the guys get their suits for the big day over at F Apparel, 190 Smith Street downtown. Find out more or make an appointment to come in for a fitting online at F. That's EPHapparel.com. All right. Expecting one Ken Wiebe to join us in the next little bit. Remo, good stuff with Dave. Always fun. And man, we're going to have to do a power poll of the top backgrounds for people that come on with us. Dan Fink is definitely on that power poll. He always finds a good place to show off where he's at. But Dave McCarthy's backyard has a special place in WST history.
Yeah, Dave always brings it from the garden, enjoying the bourbon takes, enjoying the Leafs takes, and the Stanley Cup Final takes here. So always love having Dave on, part of the Sunday Brunch on Sirius XM, NHL.com, locked in to the NHL and the offseason. And speaking of offseason, I did see the Athletic just dropped their big boards. So we're full in. People are dropping trade boards, free agent boards. Everyone's got their own. So very fun time of year.
What about our board that has one Ken Wiebe joining us live from, speaking of backgrounds, not a lot of people get a chance to cruise through the hallowed halls of the Winnipeg Free Press building on Mountain Avenue. But I do believe that we're going from Dave McCarthy's backyard to all business at the Winnipeg Free Press with Ken Wiebe, who's going to join us in just a minute. Well, listen, while Ken gets ready to go, your Prairie Toyota dealers want to remind you to get in and go with the Toyota Tundra. The Tundra has quality that means it has the strength to take on any challenge, off-road or hauling a heavy load, and it's backed by the peace of mind knowing it's a Toyota. You can take the road less traveled in comfort, room for teammates, friends, and gear. And can we talk about how good this truck looks anywhere it goes? The Toyota Tundra is turning heads. From $154 weekly for 60 months at 5.19% APR with $66.99 down. Hybrid available. You can visit shoptoyota.ca for more on the Toyota Tundra and get hauling today. Ken Wiebe joins us now from, what is this? This is the upstairs of the majestic Free Press building. What's going on?
Huss, great to be with you as always. Yes, in the office for a rare staff meeting here. So it was a good little luncheon. I had a great Great meeting with sports editor Grace, and ready to rock. Just ran into Hammer in the
award-winning
also.
Jeff Hamilton.
Yes, the award winner. Yes, a nice job by our good friend there. Yes, big CAJ award winner for that great series with Katrina. Excellent work. Yeah, and there he is in the background. There he is. There's the Hammer. Which way do I lean?
You know what?
He's already out.
There he is going down the stairs. He's just getting fired up.
Tremendous.
For CFL 110. Yeah. It's 1 hour from now. Jeff will be back from work and we'll be getting into it. Really looking forward to that. Yeah, if you did pop in late, programming note, don't go anywhere at the end of the program because the big season kickoff edition of CFL 110 is coming up with myself and Jeff right after Winnipeg Sports Talk today. Listen, we'll get to the Cup Final and get your thoughts before we drop the puck on that in a minute. But let's start off with the Jets. And we kicked it around at the start. Rasmus Kupari has decided to take his talents to HC Lugano of the Swiss League. Ken, I can't say that I'm surprised at this. I enjoyed having him on the club. He was a lot of fun to watch, rip around. It was a guy that seemingly had a lot of talent, but the rest of the package didn't quite match up with the all-world wheels and had a tough time maintaining and really holding down that spot heading into playoffs in both seasons.
Yeah, Huss, I would say that the injuries were a factor in both seasons for sure. The shoulder injury against New Jersey, I think it was Nate Bastian that caught him 2 years ago, and this time around getting hit by Hudson Fasching that caused the concussion in New York. And then the fact that he had the setback after that, I think, was quite damaging to his season, Huss. And again, Rasmus is a guy who doesn't mind the contact, but both of his injuries are contact related. Once he got hit, or both times he got hit, right? So the speed was always there. And again, you know my feelings on Rasmus. I mean, this is a guy with incredible raw materials here. And Huss, quite frankly, played his best hockey when Adam Lowry was injured. I mean, those 8 games where he played the third line center role is the best that he's played. This year he improved his faceoffs, got a little bit more offense. And again, it's hard to score in the NHL. I mean, let's start there. But 5 goals and 8 points, if you looked at the guy in practice every day like we do, this is a guy that should be a double-digit goal scorer with relative ease, Huss, based on the number of chances generated for himself and line mates. So, yeah, I mean, I think it's fair. I mean, I don't think he's a role player that had a role but never really flourished in it. I think there's a guy with, and given his age, Huss, too, let's just get this out there right away. At 25 years old, Rasmus Kupari needs puck touches, right? This is a guy that generates a lot, doesn't finish. His finishing ability is lacking at the NHL level so far. But Huss, I still believe that if he came back after 2 seasons in Lugano, this is a guy that could be an NHL player into his 30s. And again, so folks know, I mean, the Jets are going to give him a qualifying offer, which means they'll keep his rights a little bit longer as well here. So, I mean, for Kupari, I think I would say it's pretty safe to say the Jets would be surprised by this development. He's a guy who they weren't looking to move in the offseason, and I think they felt he was going to be a 12th or 13th forward, depending on how things shake down. But this is someone who, brings some skills to the table and could be someone who factors in down the road with the Jets. But for now, heading over and going to try to use those wheels to get himself back into a place where he's a little bit more confident with the puck on his stick rather than just, chasing it around a little bit, if you will.
Yeah, listen, I was excited about him at the start, and then the hands weren't there. Finishing ability. I mean, listen, he was playing a 4th line role just about the entirety of his time here.
Yeah.
So it's not like you're expecting guys to light it up. But because he had that all-world speed, you always were kind of left wanting a little bit more, Ken, because you knew the potential was there.
Yeah, and that's why I say, again, I don't say this flippantly. I do think he's a guy that could be a double-digit goal scorer. Probably not going to score 20, but he could easily give you the, 8 to 12 kind of in that 3rd or 4th line role. I think the other part too, Huss, he'll go to Lugano, get a lot of ice time, and that's where some of the other stuff where, once you get sort of not pigeonholed necessarily by the coaching staff, but once you get into the situation where your goal is to not be scored upon, Huss, hockey gets hard. When you're playing, 8 minutes a game, He never really found a stable footing on the penalty kill. Yes, they were using him for faceoffs, and yes, he had some time there, but he wasn't offensive enough to be an offensive player. He wasn't really a defensive, wizard, if you will. Can be in the right place at the right time. But like we've said, there have been times where maybe his, hockey IQ wasn't matching his pace, and that has more to do with the pace that he played at than the hockey IQ side. But I think that's something that maybe by playing over in Europe for a couple of years, the Swiss League is a great league. You're probably going to see him at the Spengler at some point, Huss, in the next couple of years here, maybe. Otherwise, I don't think that it necessarily closes the chapter on the NHL portion. It's just maybe a bit of a reset for Rasmus Kupari. But yeah, I mean, especially Huss, given the situation with the Jets probably going to be without Lowry for the first couple months or month or two of the season, it'll only augment the need to maybe upgrade the forward position here. And that's one of the reasons why I wrote what I wrote today in the pages of the Winnipeg Free Press.
Ken, I want to quickly get because it's all a part of the center position.
Yeah.
The offseason need to improve, talking about the 2C position, and then the Jonathan Toews. And you wrote about this yesterday. Loved the piece. And I think we're sort of on the same wavelength here. I mean, a low-cost addition with a major upside, I certainly believe. Like, I'm not one of these people that just says, well, if Jonathan Toews comes back, he's obviously a fourth-line center. Like, I believe, Ken, that he doesn't even think about a comeback if Jonathan Toews doesn't believe that he can be a very good version of himself. Just if you could give us your thoughts on Toews coming back, and if the Winnipeg Jets were the team that he chose to come, because I do believe there'll be plenty of suitors that would be more than happy to give a guy with his resume an opportunity, how that might look in Winnipeg, especially with Adam Lowry not in the lineup for the first couple months of the season, potentially.
Yeah, Huss, first and foremost, the most important part of this story is that, from the people that I talked to that know Jonathan, he is healthy. And the fact that he, through his agent, Pat Brisson, has made it clear that he plans on making a comeback. Huss, this isn't just a comeback to say I got to the finish line. This isn't this isn't the final shift scenario where you're going to get to do the warm up and buzz around and stand on the, for the anthem and then go into the room and take off your gear and be retired. Like, he's a guy who feels like he wants to get his name engraved on the cup again. From the people I talk to, it's the priority for Jonathan is going to a place where he feels he can win a Stanley Cup, playing a winning program. So, and also some people that I've spoken to believe the Jets are a legitimate option for him, and that's natural. There will be other suitors, as you mentioned. I think it's natural to wonder about the Edmonton Oilers, Huss, depending on how things go for them. If they win the Cup, does that change their opinion? I don't think it does. But especially if they're unable to get over the hump here for the second year in a row against the Florida Panthers, I could definitely see Stan Bowman wanting Jonathan Toews to ride shotgun behind Connor McDavid and Leon Draisaitl to augment their center depth. I can see the Vegas Golden Knights being very interested, Huss. I could see the Tampa Bay Lightning being a team that would have interest also in bolstering down the middle with a three-time Stanley Cup champion. And Huss, in terms of role, again, it's hard to know what he's going to look like coming back from long COVID at 37 years old, but let's just look at the Stanley Cup Final for two examples of players not hanging on at 37. Brad Marchand has been one of the best players on the Florida Panthers. Do we know how old he is? Yes, we do. He is 37 years old, playing some of the best hockey of his career. And on the other side of the equation, Mr. Fossil Fuels, Corey Perry, at 40, I think he's got 7 goals already, doesn't he? He's got 5 or 7 goals, one or the other. Either way, he's a menace to the opposition. He can play with skilled players and be very effective getting to the net, doing all kinds of, the things getting to the hard areas. So again, different players than Jonathan Toews, Huss. And again, let's also remember, whoever team signs Jonathan Toews, you're not getting the 2010 version that won everything that year. Olympic gold, Stanley Cup, everything else. But you are getting a player with over 1,200 NHL games, including the playoffs. You're getting someone who has won the Conn Smythe, who has won the Selke Trophy. So at the bare minimum, you are getting someone who's a great skater. He's great on the faceoffs. He can play a sound defensive game. And he's always been a guy who can produce offense as well. And he often sacrificed offense for playing better defense. So, Huss, you know what that sounds like? Someone that could fit in pretty well with the Winnipeg Jets and what they're trying to accomplish. So, and again, let's also go through the list. I mean, yes, connected to Kevin Cheveldayoff from their time in Chicago. There is a personal connection to owner Mark Chipman as two people who are alumni of the University of North Dakota. Does he have other buddies on the team? I'd have to look a little bit closer. But I think there'd be a lot of people that would have great respect for Jonathan Toews. And Huss, the leadership piece cannot be undersold. We heard this all throughout the playoffs. The only player on the Jets roster right now that has their name engraved on the Stanley Cup is Luke Schenn. Luke Schenn and Jonathan Toews would have 5 cups between them. So I think this is someone who, and again, Captain Series does not have to be the alpha male in the room, no matter where he signs. He will have a strong voice. He will be a leader, but he doesn't have to carry the mail for the team. He doesn't have to be the savior. But Huss, a center depth chart that looks like Mark Scheifele, Jonathan Toews, Adam Lowry, depending on how you want to move the minutes when he's back, I think that would be pretty appealing to the Jets. And until Lowry's ready, Morgan Barron and or Vladislav Nemestikov in that role, that would put the Jets in a pretty good position down the middle for me going into the next season.
Yeah, I do. I mean, listen, if Toews was at his, if he looked like a Toews of 6 years ago,
sure.
Absolutely. I think you have to be prepared for that possibility to not happen at the same time, which then goes to other options at the 2C position, Ken.
But then that's the other thing, too. Once Lowry is back and at full speed, Lowry often handles second line minutes. So you don't need Toews at 22 minutes necessarily, but it also give you the thing that would appeal to me if I were Jonathan Toews, Huss. With Lowry being out, you have a 2-month runway to see how your body responds to the NHL game and how quickly you get back up to speed. So that would be the appeal here. Now, does he want to be a second-line center? Knowing Jonathan Toews since he was 17 years old, he doesn't want to be a fourth-line player necessarily. That's not to say he wouldn't make the sacrifices required if that was what it took. But this is a guy who has a high standard for himself and wants to play at that standard. We're just 4 years removed from Jonathan Toews, or 5 years removed. Toews was the best player in a series against the Edmonton Oilers. Who was on the Oilers, Huss? Same 2 guys driving the bus now in the Stanley Cup Final. He outshined both Connor McDavid and Leon Draisaitl in a 4-game series that was a best-of-5 in the play-in round, where the Blackhawks upset the Oilers in that year where they were really good in the North Division. So, again, is he going to be that player or that version of himself? Maybe not right away, but this is a guy, Huss, the song applies to him. All he does is win, win, win. So to me, this is a guy that can help with whatever team he goes to. He's going to help them enhance their ability and chances to win.
Now, what do the Jets have to do to make it here? I mean, I know you've been digging around, I'm sure. I mean, do you get a sense of how realistic Winnipeg might be amongst a bunch of other cup contending teams that would certainly be interested in getting Jonathan Toews into the mix?
Definitely in the mix from what I can understand, Huss. I mean, I'm not going to stand here and pound on the table and say that they're the definite front runner. There are other teams that will have appeal. And, again, I think that at the top of that list would be, I'm not going to rank them, but Vegas, Tampa, Edmonton, Winnipeg, they're all very much in the mix. Kind of a sleeper, just given the bilingual roots. I would say Montreal would have some appeal, Huss being an Original Six franchise. But if this is, again, I'm not saying it's only a 1-year shot for Toews. I think if he comes back and feels good, he's going to play for a couple more years. I don't think Montreal is far enough on their program, Huss. They're on the upswing, but I don't think they're far enough along that Toews would say, hey, with me, I could put them over the top. And again, not to say that he couldn't, but I think it's more likely he'll go to a team that finished a little bit higher in the standings than the Canadians did this year, Huss. But again, the Jets were first overall and had 6 playoff wins. They're definitely going to be in the mix. But it's up to Toews to decide what fit is best for him. And I also would say the Colorado Avalanche would probably have to be a team. I'm going to put them as the 5th team in the mix, if you will. Toews grew up a huge Joe Sakic fan. The Colorado Avalanche are also happen to have a vacancy at 2C. And we know that, Nathan MacKinnon, we heard what he said at the end of round 1 when they got bounced by his former line mate. There's a lot of desire to win there. And I think that there would be a lot of desire, for someone like Toews to go there and try to be, ride shotgun with Nate Dogg, if you will.
You just mentioned the Avalanche, which is interesting in that they, of course, were the winning suitor for Brock Nelson at the trade deadline. It has been reported that the Jets actually had the deal done, and then he nixed that to, it ended up going to Colorado. Is that do you think the Jets even consider Nelson right now? I mean, as an unrestricted free agent, if he was in the mix right now, Ken, or is that sort of ship sailed based on what's been reported coming out of the deadline?
Yeah, Huss, I mean, that was something that we talked about too. I think that, I think that he was a little bit more open to coming to Winnipeg until he found out that Colorado was interested. This is a guy that wants to win also, Huss. The Islanders had a couple good years where they got to the conference final, but I think that given his age, his motivation will be to chase a cup too. So, and you can't ignore the fact that Jets were as interested as they were at the deadline and then say, oh, well, he spurned us, so we're out. I don't think that would be, that it'll be that cut and dried. I think that they would consider him as an option. But again, the age, Huss, to me, you're not going long-term with Brock Nelson. So I'm not sure what Brock is looking for. If he's looking for an opportunity to win, it's close to his hometown of Minnesota. Roseau or Warroad, I can't remember which one. I think it's Warroad. Either way, I think he would be an option, but I think that the Jets, now here I am saying the Jets should sign 37-year-old Jonathan Toews, but they should shy away from Brock Nelson. I'm not saying that at all. I am saying that it'll be interesting to see how it all transpires. What I am saying that neither one of them is a long-term solution for 2C, but Huss, maybe you don't need that. Maybe you need the bridge solution to get you to Braden Yager or Brad Lambert in a year or two, right? So I think that could definitely be some, be part of the appeal for the player. But if those guys are looking for, 3 or 4 year deals, that's going to probably change the scenario a little bit.
Yeah, I think if I had to bet right now, and just from what I've heard through the grapevine, you'd have to think that the Minnesota Wild for a World guy would be near the top of that list. And for the first time in a long time, Bill Guerin actually has some disposable income to throw around on July 1st now that those massive cap penalties are off the books.
Yeah, no doubt. And Minnesota is interesting, right? Marco Rossi's name is out there a lot. Mike Russo wrote about it again this week. I think it was today. Lots of trade rumblings. Here's a guy who's an RFA. I got a couple notes today, Huss. Should the Jets try to sign Marco Rossi to an offer sheet rather than trade for him? Rossi's an interesting player, right? I mean, he was right around the time where he was right before Perfetti, right? That year? Did he go right before Perfetti at 9? So the Jets definitely had him on their radar, but he's also an interesting player because of the size factor, Huss, right? Incredible vision, not necessarily a natural finisher, but what? I think he had 18 goals or somewhere in that range. 18,
he was
20,
he was
right?
20. He was 24.
22,
24 last year, 36 assists, 60 points.
Pretty darn good year. But Huss, the other part of that, you got to remember, he finished the playoffs basically playing on the fourth line. But
exactly.
But let's also not. We don't need to look too far to find a recent example of someone who played on the second line and ended up on the fourth line and was a healthy scratch in the playoffs a year ago, and then ended up being an impact player in the playoffs for the Jets this year in Cole Perfetti. So I do think there would be some appeal in Rossi, but again, is he at the top of the list? Is he third? Is he fourth? I'm not sure. It would have to me, you'd have to be looking at changing the composition of the lines. If Rossi's in the mix as a 2C, Huss, then you're probably looking at Perfetti moving up to the top line, Velarde moving down, and then you play Rossi and Velarde together and then see what happens on the left-hand side free agency, depending on what happens with Ehlers. But anyways, it's an interesting name out there, and obviously the Jets would have done their research on Rossi based on where they were picking in relation to where he went. So, but again, I don't have access to the Jets draft list that year. And if Rossi had slipped to 10, if it would have been who was next on the list, I think it would have been Perfetti, but impossible to know without having access.
Yeah, I mean, listen, he has been healthy. He had some health issues at the start, but he's played every game for the last 2 years. He's been reliable, back-to-back 20-plus goal seasons. And, is still a relatively young player, so he is intriguing. You mentioned Nikolai Ehlers. I mean, I don't want to say that you were speaking as if we're filling a roster in the Ehlers past tense, but as the days go by, is the chances of him leaving getting bigger in your mind, Ken? What are you hearing on Nick?
Yeah, nothing new this week, Huss, from what we talked about the last couple of weeks here. I think the situation is the same. I mean, the Jets are the only team that can talk to Nikolai Ehlers until July 1st, unless his rights are moved. So to me, it's sort of a status quo sort of scenario there. Jets are at the Combine this week, so I don't think there would be a lot of, based on what's happening with no in-person draft this year, Huss, I just think that obviously the agents are there. So there is opportunity to have discussions with the agents. But Huss, the priority for this week are the prospects. This is their last chance to sit down with those players. And for folks at home who are unfamiliar with how it shakes down, you've been at a lot of these drafts, Huss. Normally in a draft week scenario, the Combine is just your sort of starting point with these guys. And you have meetings with probably, somewhere between 10 and 30 players over the course of the 2 days before the draft takes place. Now, those meetings will now have to happen by Zoom because all of the teams are at their home base, Huss, instead of being on site and having an opportunity to maybe sit down with someone that you are interested in learning a bit more about. So I think the focus will be on the draft, but whenever there's agents and GMs in the same room, there's the potential for talking more about deals and, trades and contracts and all of those other things. But to me, I still think it's more likely that he gets to July 1st and at least listens to what's out there. But I don't think the Jets are out of the mix yet by any stretch.
Well, good stuff, Kenny. I mean, obviously we'll stay on top of that as the number one priority, and then kick around a bunch of ideas on how this team can improve over the offseason and take that next step in the playoffs next year after another strong regular season. Great having you on the program as always. Hit them straight, and we'll catch up next week.
Thanks, my friend. Great to be with you. I'm going to go Panthers in 6 here. I know a lot of folks are looking at the rematch at being the, historically a lot of the times the team that lost the first time wins the second. It's certainly a possibility, and
I got Oilers in 7.
Okay, also fair, Huss. And again, I think this is obviously a coin flip series, could go either way. I just think that the loss of Zach Hyman, if Hyman's playing, it's a straight pick 'em. But for me, even though the Oilers' depth has been sensational in these playoffs, Huss, and getting Ekholm is a massive boost on the back end, even though, we talked earlier about UND people. Troy Stetcher did an outstanding job when Ekholm was out. Ekholm being back will really help the Oilers defensively, but not having Hyman, his net front presence, his ability to, impact the game physically against a team like the Panthers that can really grind you into the ground. To me, that's a humongous loss and a blow for them, even with the way that Evander Kane has played and got involved physically. To me, not having Hyman is the separator for me in this series. Could easily go 7, but I think the Panthers are going to repeat.
Kenny, have a great one. Enjoy game 1 tomorrow night.
You as well, Huss. Thanks for having me. Take care, my friend.
All right, there's Ken Wiebe, Winnipeg Free Press, with us on Winnipeg Sports Talk. Big shout out to our friends at Royal Sports. Getting ready for Bomber season. You got 9 days to get your Bomber gear for the upcoming season ready to go. And Royal Sports has tons of new, many exclusive pieces of Bomber merch that you won't find anywhere else. Obviously, you've got all the Jets gear right now, a lot of it on sale. Tons of Major League Baseball, Blue Jays, NBA as well in the place. The biggest hockey section 12 months a year. But as we get into summer, soccer, baseball, softball, tennis, the biggest and best selection of athletic shoes you'll find anywhere, and tons of bikes as well, including e-bikes. So get on down to Royal Sports and get ready for summer. 750 Pembina Highway. Follow them on Instagram as well at Royal Sports Winnipeg. I should mention that Yeti section for everyone that's camping and heading to the beach. They have so many cool Yeti mugs, coolers, you name it. Another great thing to keep in mind before you head out of town over the course of this summer. Tomorrow night, it's game 1. Panthers, Oilers. Boston Pizza's the place to be with your gang for Stanley Cup playoff hockey. You got the game on all the screens with big sound, and of course, the BP playoff menu featuring the Canadian All-Star Poutine. Wing flights are back. They've got the Scoville Showdown for you crazies that love it hot, and a couple of amazing new pizzas for the playoffs, the Triple Pep and the Wingman Pizza as well. Pop down to Boston Pizza for game 1 of the playoffs. And hey, if you are staying at home, you can always get the great taste of BP and the new playoff menu by ordering online at bostonpizza.com. Now, we're going to take a quick trip out to the ballpark. Goldeyes are back. New homestand begins tonight. We'll have Andrew Collier join us in just a minute. And then Pat Gregoire and I are going to take a quick look at the lines for the Canadian Open before our national championship gets underway on Thursday at TPC Toronto. But just before we bring in Andrew Collier, a big cheers to our friends at Winnipeg's favorite local brewery, Little Brown Jug.
And day out, learning new techniques, approaching new concepts, and living out the thrill of achieving your goals. Building a craft beer is no different. While you spend your hours on the ice, we spend ours here, brewing our trademark beer. Again, and again. Here's to pushing the status quo and challenging ourselves to build something memorable. 1919 by Little Brown Jug.
Cash, what's going on, buddy? How are you?
Good afternoon. Doing well.
Great day for some baseball and a great week to welcome the Goldeyes home after their second long road trip of the season.
Yeah, I think we've played 16 on the road and only 6 at home, so it'll be nice to get the boys home for 6 here.
No doubt, especially with the the weather actually looks quite nice for the rest of the week, which is great. Might be a little bit of rain, which of course the province certainly needs, everything except the baseball game. Hopefully the timing will work out with all of that. But how are you feeling about the squad? I know when we spoke going into the season that this was, as often is in the American Association, lots of turnover. You did have some familiar faces coming back, but you knew that the first 3 weeks of the schedule were going to be a real challenge with the amount you were playing on the road. You come back just 2 games under 500, winning a couple in a row. How is the feeling around the ball team coming back to the peg?
I think they're feeling good. Winning those last 2 in Lake Country were huge. Anytime you can go 500 on the road, that's a good road trip. Lake Country is a tough place to play, and to take those last 2 was huge. I think the guys are feeling good. We've added a couple pitchers when we were on the road. Like you and I were talking about, we lost Ben Kowalski the last time we were home. About 12 hours before he was supposed to start. he went to Mexico, so it was a bit of a scramble to it was a bullpen game on that Sunday that he was supposed to throw. So I think we're heading in the right direction now. We had a couple guys on the road, and one of them, Zan Rose, he threw on Saturday and did real well in his first professional outing.
Well, you know what? Let's stay with the pitching for a minute. You got Barassa, who was so good last year. He had listen, you're playing good teams on the road. I mean, it wasn't great right out of the gate, but looked like the guy last week that we saw last season. Although this time he was on the right end of a 1-0 score, pitching a complete game, which was nice. Give us a little rundown of where the starting pitching is at right now, led by Landon and some new faces.
Yeah, so we have Mitch Lamson, who is tied for the league lead with 3 wins. Barassa, Jesse Galindo has been good. The new guy, Zan Rose. So it's been Logan and the coaching staff have had to make a lot of phone calls to keep things going with the number of injuries we've had on the pitching staff and a guy going to Mexico.
Back at the, into the bullpen, Ben Anishko, of course, the local product, back with the club, which was a great development. We thought he might be in Mexico. He's here. He's been in a lot of games, and it seems like you got a closer that's really sort of established himself in Brigden. Anytime you get a guy that's been in 8 games and has an ERA under 1, you know that he's helping the team moving forward.
Yeah, he's been real good. He's been used in situations just out of necessity, not in a closing role, and being 10 and 12, there hasn't been a whole lot of save opportunities for him yet, but hopefully coming up soon we'll get him out there in the 9th more often.
Hey, I mean, you've been in baseball for a long time. How much has that changed? Like, I remember a time where the closer was only coming in and save opportunities, and now it seems that the philosophy of managing has gone to, you know, using your best players sometimes in the most high leverage situations, which often are not save opportunities and sometimes far earlier in a game.
Yeah, I think this year's a little bit different just because we have been shorthanded and Trevor's been asked to go out there in situations that he wouldn't normally be. But when Logan looks down at the bullpen and 3 guys pitched the day before and Trevor's there and available, it might not be a save situation. We need somebody to go out there and throw an inning or 2.
As far as the bats go, I mean, you'll always have some new players, but there's one constant for this team, it seems, over the last few years, and that is Max Murphy hitting the cover off the baseball. Last seen mashing a grand slam on the weekend for the Goldeyes. He's hitting .341 right now with 4 home runs and 19 RBIs right now at this early into the season. And to think about Max and what he's been through over the last couple of years with that gruesome injury, coming back last season when I think many of us didn't expect it. Now here he is doing it again.
Yeah, he's amazing. He really is. He's a guy that looks after himself, looks after his body, works hard in the offseason. He would be the first to admit last year, especially in August and into September, weren't his best, wasn't his best. And I think he had a goal this offseason to come into this year fresh and ready to go. He played a lot last year in Mexico in the winter, and going into the 24 season, played a lot in Mexico and then started the season in Mexico. It was just a lot of wear and tear, and I think he took it easier this offseason and just got ready for our season. I think you're seeing the results of that now.
Of course, Armstrong having a great start to the season. He's batting .339 as well. But, you know, for folks that maybe missed the first homestand that are coming out this year to see the Fish for the first time, outside of Murphy and Armstrong, who would you say are, some of the more exciting players and newcomers that have opened some eyes that Goldeyes fans are starting to really get used to seeing out there on the field?
Oh, for sure. Evan Alexander, who joined us late in the season last year, played in Fargo the last couple of years. He's always exciting to watch when he gets on the base pass. Tanner Otremba, a new guy. He's been putting up numbers. He's quick on the base pass as well. Plays in the outfield. Ray Patrick Jitter, another guy from Aruba. We saw what happened with the last guy we had from Aruba, Jason Cruz, who's now with the Giants organization and doing well at high A right now. But those are guys that are fun to watch out there for sure. And Ramon Bramasco was with us last year, playing a great third base and always exciting to watch.
Bramasco has such a great eye at the plate too. I mean, we're now in the, and we often just naturally look at batting average, but then you kind of go down that stat line and see how many times they're getting on thanks to walks. It all adds up, and he's been a leader for the Goldeyes in that case. So we begin tonight, going right through Sunday. Guess it's a bit of an early start for everyone. The school day game, great afternoon action tomorrow, and those are always packed games with a lot of energy. But fill us in on what people can look forward to as far as the entire 6-game homestand.
Yeah, tonight at 6:30, tomorrow at 11. Great way to skip out of work or take an hour off, come on down to the ballpark and visit Craft Beer Corner. Craft Beer Corner is never very busy on the school games.
Everything else is packed except for Craft Beer Corner.
Yeah, go down there and you'll have your choice of seats. And then Thursday, 6:30, that finishes off the King County series. And then starting Friday, we play against the first place Kansas City Monarchs. They are 15-7 so far this year. They got a real good squad. So Friday at 7, Saturday at 6, Sunday at 1, and then we hit the road again.
Blowing off fireworks on Friday night, and then a big weekend for the baseball community as well with the Saturday and Sunday events.
Yeah, Saturday we'll be honoring this year's Manitoba Baseball Hall of Fame inductees. We'll be wearing a Brandon Cardinals replica jersey. They're one of the teams going in the Hall of Fame this year. And then Sunday is Baseball Manitoba Day at the ballpark. We'll be wearing replica jerseys of what they wore at the Canada Games in 2017. So that's always a fun day.
Great stuff. Well, Andrew, we're looking forward to all these games this week. And then, of course, seeing you and the crew with our crew on Thursday, June 19th. We're filling up that lower deck patio party. And I'm very much looking forward to seeing you. I'm sure I'll get there before then. But we had such a great time last year with our WST event. I can tell you, people are very much excited to get the gang back together down on that left field line and get after it on a Thursday night.
Yeah, that'll be a fun night. It was great last year to meet some of your listeners, viewers, and put faces to names that I see on the right side chat column. So yeah, it's always fun to have the WST crew out here.
Well, listen, good luck tonight and on this homestand. And in the meantime, folks, get on over to winnipegsportstalk.com and click on that Goldeyes link and make sure you count yourself in for June 19th for our Winnipeg Sports Talk patio party down at Blue Cross Park for the Winnipeg Goldeyes. Cash, good luck, buddy. Thanks for doing this.
Thank you. Talk soon.
Here, there is plenty in the chat right now. Although, how about this? I'm going to give a shout out to Ghost Pro, who mentioned just got here in Niagara Falls last night from Puckatawagan, Manitoba. Thanks to the 125 Americans for fighting fire in northern Manitoba. Time to look over the falls. Ghost Pro, thinking about all you that are displaced right now by the fires. Back to Jonathan Toews here. Partisan Paul. Toews to Vegas would be disappointing, though not surprising. Some thoughts about Rasmus Kupari going to Switzerland as well. And Rick Buck says, hey, the bottom line, does he want to play here? And if he does, there'll be a spot for him. And T. Will. T. Will, just 5 years removed. That's pretty removed. It is, but as I say, I'm not guaranteeing anything, but I think you'd have to be insane to write off Jonathan Toews, especially if he's coming back for this. And then Yin Vivian mentioning the Canucks season ticket drive ads do not include Elias Paterson, or as Yin referred to him as EP 11.6. The no trade kicks in July 1st. You'd have to think even if after the 1st, if there was a deal for him, he might be able to come. You can keep on firing your heaters into the chat for Fans First, fan feedback, fansfirst.ca. By fans, for fans, no fees. We're going to get into some golf talk coming up with Patty right away as we get ready for the Canadian Open, our national championship. Of course, Breezy Bend brings us all our golf reports here on Winnipeg Sports Talk, and it's always a fun week when Rory McIlroy and some of the best on the PGA Tour come to Canada. If you're thinking about making Breezy your long-term golfing home, one of Winnipeg's top private courses, give our pal Corey Johnson a call at the clubhouse or find out more online on getting on that waiting list at breezyben.ca. And we'll see you all at Breezy later on this year for the Manitoba Open. And again, thanks again to Andrew coming on the program. I know Remis put the link in the description. We're about 80% sold right now. We've got about 20 tickets left. So if you've been waiting, jump on it right now. And who was it that just said, oh, Running Man, thanks for reminding me. And Remis, I just went and got a ticket for WST at the ballpark. So yeah, June 19th. It's going to be a great time. We'll see all of you there. All right, speaking of the Canadian Open in golf, Remo and Connor are going to be holding it down for the next few days as I come out to have some fun, do some content with the Coolbet boys for some Blue Jays, and of course the Canadian Open. And my go-to guy for all things golf, looking like he is ready to go hit the course right now. Look at that beautiful Coolbet Puma shirt. Stepping up the merch, boys. Pat, what's going on?
Doing well. Yeah, I wish I was on the links. I actually got out for the first time this weekend. Some good shots, some not so good shots. But certainly we'll be seeing guys who can swing it a little bit better than us this upcoming week. I'm excited. I'm actually really excited to get out to TPC Toronto. Have not been out there yet, but it sounds like if the winds aren't humming around, which they might, this could be a bomber's paradise, which if you're not on Rory McIlroy, it could be a long weekend for you.
Well, let's talk about this right off the bat before we get to the odds. And by the way, full CFL 110 coming up, our future special. Jeff and I are going to be diving into everything at Coolbet that you want to get into before kickoff. Player props, season win totals, MOP, all that's coming up on CFL 110. Doing a little digging into this TPC Toronto. And this is one of the longest courses that these guys are going to be playing all year. And that's a big departure from recent Canadian Open layouts where driving distance hasn't really been a big deal, Patty. It sounds like, strokes gained off the tee, and I would say long irons as well is going to really play into success rates for this tourney.
Yeah, I think that's the one thing that everyone's getting lost in the shuffle here. They hear big course, long course, distance, and they immediately draw their eyes to the guys that can mash it off the tee, which totally makes sense. But I think one thing that we have to also look at as well is maybe the guys that can bang it off the tee long. You got to also have guys that can still play with their long irons, or maybe a player that's not incredibly long off the tee, but is a master with the long iron, say a Corey Connors. Those are guys that I think you have to look here. I love these tournaments where we don't really have a lot of course record or course history. So we have to do some other things, do some diggings. It kind of evens the playing field here a little bit, but it's hard to say leveling out the playing field when you've got Rory McIlroy at plus 450. And I mentioned about the wind. I do think scrambling could come into play if we do get some wind. But if it isn't going to be a windy week, I do really think that the ones that we got to be looking at when it comes to our analytics are, you said it, off the tee numbers, and then strokes gained approach and the long iron numbers as well.
I'll just lay out the top of the odds board. Listen, there's a precipitous drop after Rory McIlroy, who is the clear favorite at plus 450. Scotty Scheffler not in the field this week. We move. Oh, and just quickly, Pat, it took me everything in my power to be able to get it together. If this wasn't the Canadian Open, I may have just had to recuse myself from talking about golf and betting this week after what happened with Patrick Cantlay on the back nine of last week. I don't want to get into. I probably ranted about that yesterday. I had such a great weekend, and then that happened. But I digress. We move from Rory to our guy Ludwig Oberg, 14-1. Only other player under 20-1. Hometown hero Corey Connors, 20. Shane Lowry, 22-1. Bobby Mack, former Canadian Open champion, at 28. 30-1 on Sam Burns and Canadian Taylor Pendrith. Luke Clanton at 35 is kind of an interesting name for a young player. Sungjae M, and then a group at 40, including Hall, Max Hughes, Kashmir Keith Mitchell as well. Nick Taylor is 50-1 to win his second Canadian Open. The guy that I'm actually starting with, and I can make an argument of Corey because of the just his general iron play. Shane Lowry's one of the best long iron players. He can get it far enough off the tee, and he does have a pretty darn good short game as well. I think I'm getting on the card with Lowry at 22-1, Pat.
I really like that. I stayed away from Lowry just because if it comes down to it and it's Rory and Lowry, or even a guy like Aberg, or even Bobby Mack for that point, just Lowry hasn't shown me that he can close it out and win at an event in a really long time. The putting always goes sideways on Sunday. With that being said, he was very close to my card. I would not be surprised if he can win. And he is actually technically on my card because, you know me, I love my first round leader bets. 34-1 for Shane Lowry to lead after day one. That was one of my favorite bets of the day because I do truly believe he's going to be sniffing around. I just don't know if he has the gumption to close it out because it's been a while since we've seen Shane Lowry with that killer instinct.
I love Lowry. He's a fun guy to cheer for, too, to be able to see him. I want to be on Team Shane, but we are also card-carrying members of Team Oberg. And listen, this is one of those things where, you have to realize that Rory McIlroy might pound everybody, and if that's the case, fine. I don't think you're going to be seeing me jump on a plus 450 number on Rory, even in a field like this. But you can get me thinking about 14-1 on Lubrick. And he is just such a well-rounded player. He really has everything. And, man, we saw him help us hitting that Sunday sweat parlay we had last week from this segment here with a 6 or 7 under final round to get into the top 20. Where are you at on Ludwig?
Yeah, if you asked me that on Saturday, I said no chance, not a chance at all.
He's
but
back
for
in
him,
our good books.
Yeah, he is. But 14-1 in this field, it's tough. I think he will stay away from my card. What I think might be a play is if he starts out a little bit slow on Thursday, maybe think about a day 2 bet for him. I will probably play him a top 10 finish, maybe even in a parlay in the top 20. But to flat out win, I've got Rory on my card. Like, I can't believe I'm going to do it. I just think his game fits this course so well. He loves playing in Canada. It helps that he gets a bag from RBC or Golf Canada to come to these events year after year. But he's obviously proven here he can win. And I know they're all different types of courses, but I think you could argue that out of all the courses that he's played, Hamilton, Oakdale, you name it, even Angus Glen back in the day, this is probably the course that fits him the best with his games. Mind you, he's been struggling with his irons a little bit as of late, but at plus 450, I'm going to take a bit of a bite. I maybe even use my big swing 30% profit boost on him to get that number a little more palpable. I just think he's playing way too good right now, and the way that he can really use his skill set here is something that I'm certainly circling in on. And to keep with the theme, we talked about Pendrith 30-1. I got him at 33-1. And I think there's 2 things that go in here for actually, I should say 3 things that go here well for Pendrith. Talked about how well he hits the ball off the tee, one of the longest hitters on tour. He's got great recent form, T12 last week at the Memorial, T5 at the PGA Championship. He actually led the field in strokes gained on approach last week. He has been playing very well the last few weeks. The one thing that it is abundantly clear, this guy has played TPC Toronto more than I think anyone. He has played it so much. He is constantly there. He's been there before the renovations, after the renovations. I don't think there is a player, with maybe the exception of some of the other younger Canadian guys that have made their way on, that have played this course more than Pendrith. So I'm going to roll with Pendy here. It's at 30-1 now. I played it at 33. I think if it went any lower, maybe I would stay away. And the other bomber who I like, Ryan Fox, 80-1. Again, a guy that has proven that he can be there. He's won already this year. And again, his game really lends himself to have some success at this golf course. The other one that I'm looking down the board is a little bit of a sprinkle, is our guy Toasty. I don't know if he can close out and he's good enough putting here.
I just want to follow him and the craziness that follows that guy on the course.
But he's absolute mayhem. He bombs it off the tee. I think he's a guy that will have some success here. Maybe that should be more of a top 20 play, a top 10 play, but at that number, I figured I had to give a little bit of a sprinkle as well. And on Pendrith, I'm just looking at the odds right now, plus 400, 4-1 for him to beat out Corey Connors and the other Canadians to finish as the top Canuck. I thought this would be closer to maybe 3-1 and Connors somewhere in that range. Like, I thought they would be closer neck to neck. I'm very surprised that he's only 4-1 and Connors, you can get him at 2-1.
Well, you know what? I wanted to bring that up just for those that, it is our national championship, the Canadian Open. Here are your top Canadian odds at Coolbet. Connors 2-1, Pendy 4-1, Mac Hughes plus 550. Nick Taylor, who was right there in the mix at the Memorial, is 6-1, a former winner of this tournament. I had a good chat about that with Iwanek earlier today. But I'm with you on Pendy. And maybe for this one, Pat, maybe we go Pendy, top Canadian, and add in a couple top 20s to put together for the Sunday Sweat. What do you think about that?
Oh, we'll get a real nice number. I'll tell you that.
That's what I mean. Starting off with a 4-1.
I love that idea. I do love that idea. I will say Nick Taylor is the other guy that actually scares me. And I know I said Connors could play here. I'm probably, you just reminded me, I'm probably going to play a Taylor 50-1 ticket. Like, that doesn't make sense at his odds. I know he doesn't fit the mold for this course, but let's play scenario here. Coming down Sunday, there's not many guys that I think that could actually knock off Rory if Rory's down the stretch. I think Aberg's in that list. I know I said Lowry, I wouldn't really have a lot of faith. I know other people probably would say that. Heck, maybe even Bobby Mack could be in that conversation. Who else in this field has the gumption to do it? I think it's Nick Taylor. I really, really do think so. So I know I'm going against our bet here. I think that would be more of just a sprinkle play at 50-1. I think that this course, the way he's playing, Pendy should actually be the favorite to be the best Canadian here. Just for whatever reason, the books like Corey Connors a little more, maybe for his body work this year, but for me, it sets up it really well. And while we're talking about Canadians, before we build this parlay, if you go to that Nations Specials tab, you'll see some other Canadians. So some odds with some Canadian flavor. Any Canadian to win, plus 510. 4 Canadians to finish in the top 20, plus 150. 3 Canadians to finish in the top 10, plus 350. 3+ Canadians to finish in the top 20, minus 161. 2 Canadians to finish in the top 10, which I absolutely love that at plus 120. And then 2 Canadians to finish inside the top 5 at plus 345.
Love that. So yeah, I listen, I think we'll see some Canadian flags on that leaderboard, and plus 120 to potentially have a Pendy, a Taylor, a Corey Connors in the mix certainly would be good. Okay, how about we take Pendy, top Canadian,
okay, and
then add in, do we want to go Aberg and Lowry for 20 for top T20s?
I'm good with that. I'm absolutely good with that.
Aberg is minus 132 for a top 20. Lowry's plus money at plus 105. Then you add in the Pendy at 4-1, and I think we should have a pretty nice number for the Sunday Sweat Club.
Yeah, I love it. I wanted to get I got a piece of first round leader for Lowry. Now I get another piece of him for a top 20 finish, and you don't have to twist my arm to bet Aberg. I've done that more than enough in his short career so far.
We'll cook that up, and we'll have that up in the sports in the combos. Tonight we've got still actually a great super boost. Oilers to win the Stanley Cup, and SGA to be the NBA Finals most valuable player. That's boosted from plus 116 to plus 175. So you got to get on that. A bunch of baseball plays as well. And do we have you solidified the Greggy golf special yet?
No, I had a feeling we were going to be aligned on some of the bets this week. So we got our Sunday Sweat Club out of the way. I will be putting together a Greggy's golf special, maybe a Taylor in there, Fox I mentioned, heck, maybe even Toasty top 20. I'll cook something up. Go to the combo cards section. You'll see it there. And not to get off a little bit off task here, but it's not up yet. But I can tell you, Ev Dog and the boys, I heard your conversation about Jonathan Toews and potentially where he may land. We will be getting some odds up for his landing spot next year.
Perfect. Well, I was talking to McCarthy earlier, and we were going through the Marner possibilities. Kings, the leader at plus 450, and then I don't think you're going to be cashing a 6-1 ticket on him returning to the Leafs right now. No. That's just my feeling, but you can take a look at it. One other thing I should mention just while we're finishing up with the golf, the last one in the combo cards golf special, this is what I'm going to be on. This will be a fun one to cheer for too, being out there. Weekend Warriors, Connor, Pendy, Hughes, Nick Taylor, all to make the cut. That's boosted up to plus 217. So let's see some great performances by our Canadians and make that happen out at TPC, where we will be on a Friday. We'll be firing with some fun content with the crew, you, JBM, Ange, and everybody. I'm looking forward to it, Pat. Thanks for joining us. And again, I know Jake's going to be staying tuned next hour. Heavy CFL future show with myself and Hamilton as we get ready to put our final bets in before CFL kickoff and see if the Bombers can go for a 6th straight year to the Grey Cup this year in Winnipeg. We got to get you guys out for that.
Yes, we absolutely have to. It's already penciled in on the calendar. So let's get it in ink.
We'll see you in a couple days, pal. Thanks for doing this.
Looking forward to it. Thanks for having me as always, fellas.
All right, there's Pat Gregoire from Coolbet. Again, coolbet.com. If you haven't played there before, use the promo code WST for a 100% bonus up to $200 on your first deposit. Again, so much going on right now. We got the golf, but the Cup Final coming up. They've got some fun exclusives on that. And, of course, CFL begins in just a couple of days. Well, before we get to CFL 110, we have one more order of business, and that is to get to our picks for Cinoa Downs tonight, Remo. Reem, did you catch anything last night?
I didn't, wasn't up, but I didn't, sorry, I got one right. I think I lost 10 of my $20 bet, so I had one winner. It was an exacta, so that cashed like $960 or something. So I didn't lose it all, but I didn't really win. So I'll take it, though. Take it.
That's not too bad. That's not too bad. I mean, I had a couple near misses, but again, nothing quite like the May 27th victory of 292.20 as I look in my previous bets. But let's get to tonight's action, Reem. Where do you want to start off? I'm just going with the final 4 races today, actually.
I'm on 4, 5, 6, 7 as well.
All right. Race number 4. I am going $4 on number 2 to win. I could not bet on a horse named Mini Glazed Donut.
Yes. A good one. I have 1, 2, 5 here. That's the program selection, AI Smart Picks, the chalk trifecta box. I'm going with that.
All right. Race number 5, I am doing another win bet. $4 on number 1, Miss Z, to win.
I'm going with a long shot. I got a toonie on East Coast Cowgirl at 20-1.
Nice. Pulling up. There was a couple big. Savage Love, one of our old favorites, won yesterday at like 16-1, I think, in one of the races. All right. Race number 6. I'm going triactor here. Triactor wheel, $1. Number 2, Sawasti. Number 4, Upstriker. And number 7, Jeff Fa. I always remember that name from last year, and Jeff Fa was a good one. I think they get into the top 3, so a 2-4-7 triactor wheel.
Yeah, you're going 2-4-7. I'm going 2-4-1. Brody's Streak is my pick instead of Jeff Fa.
No, I ejected Brody's Streak from the program selections. He's not a Hustler selection. He's out. Jeff Fa, we're going tonight. And then race number 7. Another triactor wheel. I'm going with number 1, Gallant Oak. Number 4, Designated Hitter. And number 7, Rydom, who had some nice performances last year.
Rydom. I'm with you. I'm just going 1-4 here on the exacta box. So we're
perfect.
Similar pages on some of these.
Yeah, we could both win that one. We could both win at the same time. Of course, live racing tonight. Mondays are back. And tomorrow at Assiniboia Downs. So Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday through most of the summer. Tuesday and Wednesday every week right through until October this year, which is going to be great. You can go to asdowns.com for more information, and as well as the number, I think it's 885-3300 to get you a booking in the dining room for that incredible prime rib buffet and a great night of live racing. All right, that is going to do it for us. Kind of. We'll take a momentary break and then fire up Season 2, Episode 2, Week 1 of CFL 110 with our pal Jeff Hamilton, the Hammer. He joins me next. If you're with us live on YouTube, stick around. Don't go anywhere. If you're listening onto the podcast, CFL 110 should be there by the time you are listening to this to get ready for Week 1 in the Canadian Football League. Thanks again to all of our sponsors for making this show happen each and every day. And our guests, Dave McCarthy, Ken Wiebe, Andrew Collier, Pat Gregoire. But stay tuned. CFL 110 is next, right here on Winnipeg Sports Talk.
Oh, my God! Oh! Shut it down! Let's go home!
Thanks for tuning in to Winnipeg Sports Talk Daily. Make sure to subscribe on YouTube and your favorite podcast feed at winnipegsportstalk.com.